One day, I was driving to the library when suddenly my stomach started hurting. I guess I drank too much the previous day. I quickly passed through the parking barrier in the library's parking lot, parked the car, and ran straight to the restroom. I hurriedly opened the stall door and sat down. It was a close call. As I was finally calming down, I looked around and noticed the handle on the stall door right in front of me. Seeing the handle suddenly reminded me of the parking barrier I'd just gone through. I realized that both the handle and the gate function similarly, opening and closing through rotational force. This got me thinking. I started pondering the differences between them. Then, I noticed something unique about the stall handle. It wasn't just a rotating mechanism, it also signaled whether the stall was occupied, using the rotational force from a person's hand. In contrast, the parking barrier operates with a motor but provides no such information. Curious about how the gate signals open or closed, I recalled that the gate uses LED lights to indicate its status. At that moment, I spotted a flaw in the parking barrier's design. Since the gate relies on LED lights to display open or closed states, it requires two different colored LEDs. It also needs a control circuit and a switch to change the LED colors. As a result, toggling the LED lights through the switch repeatedly consumes more power and shortens the lifespan of the LEDs. To be honest, most people probably wouldn't be bothered by a minor issue like increased power consumption or reduced LED lifespan. But I don't overlook even the smallest issues. That's just my mindset, to dig into every detail, no matter how minor. This is how I discovered the problem with the parking barrier. I thought carefully about an effective way to reduce the LED's power consumption and extend its lifespan. I also considered whether, like a handle, the parking barrier could convey information using rotational force. As I was thinking this through, a solution suddenly came to mind. Initially, I thought of the color lens glasses I used to play with as a child, then I pictured color film wrapped around rollers. I realized that by using the parking barrier's rotation to turn the roller, I could alternate red and blue color films over the LED. This would allow the LED to be a simple white light, removing the need for an LED switch, and thus addressing both power consumption and lifespan issues. Without the usual control circuits or switches, I also thought this would simplify the system and reduce complexity. Additionally, since no extra power source is needed for control circuits or switches, it's a highly eco-friendly approach. I imagined the color film also acting as a protective filter to reduce direct LED exposure, helping protect drivers' eyes. However, since this approach was still similar to the function of a restroom handle, I felt it needed an additional feature. So, I imagined the LED colors changing with the color film. The color transitions reminded me of a gradient effect. I thought that this gradient could evoke an emotional response from users and attract drivers' attention toward the parking barrier, enhancing their focus. This, in turn, could help prevent safety incidents in the vehicle entry and exit areas. I have a disc issue in my neck and lower back, so I often go for walks. Walking toward the front gate of the apartment complex, I noticed there's a parking barrier here, too. A banner is also installed on the barrier. It must have rained earlier because the banner was rolled up around the barrier. The original banner looks like this. It's used to display messages meant to caution drivers. But when it's rolled up like this, it's hard to see. Looking at the rolled up banner, I thought of an extendable rod that could secure the banner even against rain or wind. However, an extendable rod, while preventing the banner from fluttering, could damage the parking barrier if the barrier moves. Moreover, if space is limited where the barrier is installed, even when the barrier is raised, the rod could risk contact with a vehicle. So I pondered whether an extendable rod could work with the barrier's banner, and I realized it could, with a roller, just like before. By attaching the banner to a roller powered by the motor's rotational force, the banner could automatically roll up, removing the risks of the rod colliding with the barrier or the vehicle. Furthermore, by connecting the color film and banner and designing the winding mechanism carefully, I thought this would enable both the color film and banner technology to work together. Using the solution procedure and the three elements of a solution principle, I derived the solution principle. Focusing on an effective approach made it easy to reach this solution. Based on the three elements of the solution principle, I submitted a patent application. Since it hasn't been examined yet, it hasn't undergone verification by an examiner. When the opportunity arises, I'll share the results of that review. Handles and parking barriers are honestly, entirely different technical fields. To some, handles and parking barriers may appear as very trivial technologies. For this reason, it's honestly difficult to recognize the shared similarity of rotational force between handles and parking barriers. Likewise, it's also hard to notice the distinctions in how rotational force is used between them. However, if we approach even the smallest, seemingly insignificant things with an open mind, it becomes easier to discover similarities and differences. And by focusing on the effective aspects, we can derive solution principles we might not have initially considered.